Oh man, what's happening, everybody? Man, thank you guys for tuning in to another hour with me and Cuz. We get to hang and chop it up with you guys a little bit. Any and all questions are welcomed. I'll prompt a little bit more as we continue to chat. I do have kind of a direction and a theme. I want to kind of take us down a little bit, but obviously we'll open it up for anybody that has any questions or anything on their mind. Just throw it in the comments and we'll unpack it. And I was listening to, I had a conversation. So Don Yoakum and I connected a little bit there at Shareholders, and I know you've had the opportunity to spend some time with Don. And I mean, he's just the way he thinks and the way he sees things and organizational wise and building wealth. And, I mean, he was actually the one that gave the idea about the success coaching. So that was kind of interesting. But as we were kind of talking through and talking about things moving forward, and I've had a lot of fun conversations about this because, what we built and what we built through time-wise, and the importance of being skilled. And skill is what sets you free, and it's what ultimately we finally got you out of production. Took 3 times, but it took a proven process that you had to develop the skill set to be able to articulate. And when I came in early to Orlando, I did event for Mike Collier and Jennifer Wade on their bulletproof agent. And Mike was talking and because I mean I haven't listed a house since 2012, right? Before, I mean, that's the last house I listed before we moved to Texas.
Right.
And Mike goes, y'all, like, he was talking about development, being skilled and be able to have it. I said, and you got to be able to articulate your value proposition. And I was like, you mean a proven, repeatable system backed by market research to help you sell your home for up to 18% more than the traditional real estate agent? And like everybody in the room just kind of was like, what?
Right.
And I'm like, and later in the day, I told him, I said, what's really cool is like, I know that, like, I can with certainty,
right,
could walk in and list anybody's house right now.
Yep.
Because you have those skill set. And the thing that we've seen, and it's a behavior. And I really believe agents, especially new agents in the business that haven't been in the game for more than 5 years, they've been rewarded for bad behavior. And what happens when you're rewarded for bad behavior, you develop bad habits. And what Don was talking about, he said, I want you to think about it this way. We were talking about agent attraction, but he said, I want you to think about it this way. He goes, you're brand new agents that are trying to get in the business on their own, without getting aligned in the right organization or the right team, or agents that only sell 4 or 5 homes a year that don't have the skill set. They're building the house out of straw. Mm-hmm. He said, follow me. You can see where I'm going with this. And then he said, your agents that are just capping agents, that are just doing enough just to kind of get by. They're doing, 2.5, 3 million in production. He said, they're building a house out of wood. He said, but your icon agents, your team leaders, your people that are investing in their personal development, they're building their house out of brick. And I just loved that, the way he just kind of broke that down. And so that's been my challenge to a lot of people lately, is like, are you building a house out of straw or out of wood? Or do you want to build a house out of brick? Choice is yours. What do you want to do?
Right. 100%. Love that.
It was so good, man. It was so good. So what the direction I kind of want to kind of, go. And like I said, appreciate you guys jumping in. Any questions, comments that you guys have, we'll throw them into the comments and we'll answer them. The Agent to CEO event in Cleveland, I do not believe the registration page is up just yet. I believe I found out yesterday they finalized the venue. So that should be getting ready to roll. I would look for it any day. Hopefully maybe we can get an Independence Day special out over the weekend. So be on the lookout for that as well. Hey, Jess. So Jess is asking ad funnels. Remember Jay doing a killer video years ago to implement but feel analysis paralysis. Yep. What ads at what time and how to move people through. You want to talk through kind of what ads you're seeing that's having some traction in kind of the funnels and automation?
Well, really, Braden's the person for that job. He's built so many of them now and having quite a bit of success, lots of iterations over time. And so, either message me, Jessica, and I'll connect you with Braden's calendar. You can text me and I'll get you on his calendar.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, Braden's crushing it. He's having great results. I get whispers and people just sending me messages and stuff about how well the things that he's doing is working. So, yeah, if you guys are listening to this and you're struggling there, I believe that needs to be one of your strategies. And we can talk about this too, cuz is, what are the handful of strategies agents need to be thinking about going into the second half of the year? And that has to be one. Has to be one of your strategies to generate opportunities.
Agreed.
So I want to, as we're I listened to Stuman yesterday, and Stuman was talking about, just kind of what we're moving into. And it's like, it's not a recession. It's not this. He goes, it's a great reset. And he broke it down. Right. And he's like, a lot of these folks out here, they need to be reset. They need to be reset. And so that made me think about just what we just talked about with agents, right? You think about the 3 to 5 year agents in the business that rewarded for bad behavior. Like, they need to be reset. They need to be reset back to their skill set, and they need to develop the skills. And so just kind of looking at where we are at the halfway point of the year and kind of that reset of where we need to go, moving forward. And for us, the first thing that we always default back to is clarity. And so I would love for you to just kind of share a little bit what agents should be thinking about if they're feeling a little lost. Like Jessica said, over analyzing things, becoming paralyzed because I'm overthinking things. I don't know what direction to go. Give some context around why it's so important to make sure you're clear on where things, kind of where you're at and where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, if you identify your biggest problem, then you can start to seek, and find the right answer. But if you go through the process of identifying and getting clear on that problem, you're going to commit in a direction, right? Like, you feel like you've looked at what are all the opportunities that you could do, what are all your strengths and weaknesses, and what are all the threats. Your confidence when you move forward on that particular problem you're trying to solve lends to you actually following through to seeing it through, as opposed to random ideas, having random ideas and going in random direction without that level of clarity. And so when that this is the number one reason you should focus on funnels, for instance, is because you need to create 2 to 3 transactions a month consistently, and you don't have a system that's currently doing that. You're going to be more likely to get on here and ask that question exactly like Jessica did. Or you might be listening and sitting here listening, and you don't really know what problem you need to solve. You haven't gone through the process of getting clear. And it's everything. I mean, you can move 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction and in a real quick hurry in this business, because there's so many ideas, so many things that you can focus on. But you got to really start to understand what's the biggest problem that if you solve, would give you the greatest leverage in accomplishing your goals. And that's it's where we start with every conversation, is where we at, where we're trying to go. What are all the ways to get there? What are you good at? What are your strengths? What are the weaknesses, things that you're not good at executing on? Understand those things when you choose that priority, and then commit to what do I got to learn and who am I going to learn it from in order to get there.
And even more, one of the things that you and I have always said is who do we have to become for that to be true. And Coach challenged us all at the beginning of the year, and he said this is going to be the year of sacrifice. And so once you look at that, what are you willing to sacrifice to be able to make that true? And I think the biggest thing, and cause what are some thoughts around, and we, you know, the biggest constraint that we all have is the constraint in our mind. And so, you know, for you giving some feedback to agents listening in that are struggling, really wrestling with what's going on in their mind, like what are some things that they need to do to help them remove that constraint?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think clarity helps remove that constraint. You know, anything's possible. I think setting big goals, it starts with setting big goals. You know, where are you trying to get to? And, you know, you set a big enough goal, you know, it's going to stretch you to think differently. It's going to push you to try harder to find ways to solve a problem and get to the goal. And so I think you got to have, you know, you got to have clear goals that are attainable, but they stretch you. And if you have a constraint in your mind that it can be done, then you just need to be, you need to be feeding yourself with more positive people in your life, more, getting around the right people, and on the daily, having a good rhythm to get your head in the right space. I think that's, extremely important, especially when things are a little bit more challenging.
I would agree 100%. And I mean, for us, I mean, it was almost non-negotiable for us. What are you consuming? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Who are you conversating with? Like that's one of the things I don't think people understand how important. And I think for us, I mean, it was one of, like, if you were really to kind of distill back down, like, our circle pushed each other so freaking hard to be better each and every day. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing, is that you've got to get around people that are pushing you to be better every day. Like, I mean, I woke up like, I've got to be better today. How can I push myself? How can I push Jay? How can I push Mike? How can I push Stace? How can I push Reedy? And because if we're all growing and they're all pushing us, it's just going to make us all that much better. And,
Right.
and, for me, that's where it starts. It starts who are you around with? Who are you hanging with? Who are you talking to?
Right.
Yeah. It's getting all nostalgic over here thinking about some. I was a reason I'm laughing. I was thinking about how almost had to beat Stace over the head with a baseball bat to get him to get the Audible app on his phone.
Right. Yeah. Whole another story right there. If you're not trying to learn, I mean, you're moving backwards. You're not sitting still.
That's right. That's right. For sure. Yeah, definitely clarity. I mean, you nailed it. The bigger future. And, that was kind of the mantra within the mastermind. Mastermind, we were more intimate, be able to be more vulnerable, more transparent. And I'll never forget, it was Aspen. It might've been the second year of Aspen. And was second year Aspen, was that one big fire kind of conversation? Was that?
It was.
I think it was too. And then I think, because we had Hicks there and we were talking about if you had, 20 million in the bank liquid, what would you do? And I remember everybody's answer, but Michael, the opportunity would have to be greater than the money that I have. And, he kind of, got rolling. And I remember him saying, the best thing that we can do for you is challenge you to think bigger. And that every one of you in this room is not thinking big enough. And I just remember, you got the Jeff Cooks of the world that, 200-300 transactions to be like, fuck it, I'm going to go 2,000 transactions. But it was the power of the room and the power of somebody asking you the right question.
Right. Very true.
It is, man. It's so powerful. So yeah, definitely. If you guys are struggling right now, clarity is definitely where you have to start. You got to get real with where you're at, and not just in your business, but in your health and your relationships too. And then you got to be like, man, I'm not thinking big enough. What is this big future? And because this is one thing that I wish we would have picked up on this earlier. Is that what's the big future that gets us to freedom faster?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question
Right.
that I wish we would have learned a lot sooner.
Yep.
If somebody was to say, "Hey, man, if you could have, go back, what would you do?" I'd like our BHAG would have been moving us to future faster, or to freedom faster.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Isn't that crazy? Just starting to think back through it, and you look back over the years, and we set some big ass goals. We accomplished a lot of things. We've impacted a lot of lives. But if you could go back, it's just asking better questions.
What's up, John Marone?
Maroney. So definitely, around clarity, mindset, purpose, moving towards freedom, and definitely on that. And we've got an agent attraction question, which I definitely want to touch on. And it comes down to, you and I've said this from day one, moving into EXP, it's all about relationships and really pouring into people. And yes, I mean, you get an organization large enough, you can't do it one-to-one. You got to do it one-to-many. But you've also got to be able to pour into people that can. It goes back to one of our core values: leaders creating leaders to create leaders. That's the only way you can grow and scale. You can't do it all by yourself. From a retention standpoint, what are you seeing? Where people's focus needs to be, not only in getting people but keeping people.
Yeah, I mean, you better be checking in on your people. That's for sure right now. Definitely, some of the we're having some churn, and I think the whole industry is having a little bit of churn right now. People tend to move a little bit less in the summer because they're busy. But what I'm starting to see is a lot more bigger teams and whatnot being open-minded. And so, there's just been a little bit more of that lately that I've been seeing. The agents that don't produce, that are, they're always at risk of leaving the industry. But we've had a few people drop out just in my front line that are, people that kind of ghost and don't respond to anything that I've sent them. But trying to stay connected, getting people plugged in. The best way to create retention in this model is to make sure that every person is attended the agent attraction events that we're doing, like the one we have coming up with Coach Burt. When you start making some passive income, you're just never leaving. I mean, there's you're not. The last thing you're going to do is leave when you have some passive income coming in. So definitely helping with that. Just checking in on your people. You need to be making sure that you see how they're doing. And, that there's not something, that they're concerned with that you can't help them with or can't plug them into or connect them to. And, leveraging all of these events and all these things that are going on, making sure that they're coming to whatever the next event is that's coming. When people are sitting at home and not attending events and not jumping on calls, you don't know what's going on in their world. And, to be a good leader, you need to know those things and stay on top of that and, always keep them in communication and that sort of thing. And, I think there's going to be a lot more people that were never open to EXP that are open to it now, that are starting to, look at or consider options because they don't know what to do. And, when you can plug them into people that can help them, then that's, gives them more reason to make a switch.
100%. And, it goes back to what we just said. And it was the question that I wish we would have been asking ourselves sooner. And it's, people are tired, and you have to understand the real goal in business. Yeah, it's to make a profit. That's oxygen. That's to reinvest. That's to be able to grow. But the real goal, guys, is freedom. Like, that's what you're in pursuit of. Are you in the best vehicle that's moving you to freedom, to where you're not the dancing bear? I promise you, almost every one of you listening to this conversation, if you don't dance, you don't get paid. And I promise you that at some point in your life, you're going to want enough money coming in to where you don't have to dance if you don't want to.
Yep.
And you gotta look at that. You've got to, cause how many people, it's sad. We've coached so many people that get up in age that, they just nothing. They just nothing. They have no assets. They have no, and it's just like, guys, listen, like, there's a better way. It's been our mantra for 2 decades. There is always a better way. I tell the funny story all the time about doing what you're the best at, and there's always a better way. I always tell the story of you, me, and Reedy when we thought, we needed to build out the listing presentation and the buyer presentation. And I went over to the store, grabbed a a bunch of beer for us and in the fridge, and we're sitting there drinking beer. And I remember it vividly. You're there cranking on the computer, Reedy's standing up beside you, and I'm sitting back there, and I just, because I disengaged for a second, I saw it. I was like, guys, this is the dumbest shit we've ever done in our lives. There's got to be a better way.
Right.
And of course there was Megan. We paid $250 for 3 unbelievable presentations. She ended up being head of marketing and ended up becoming head of company, running, a $10 million company. And all through asking ourselves, are we doing what we're the best at? And we know there's a better way.
Right. When you get clear, I think, I ran into, I had a lot of conversations with shareholders. And what's up, Antonio? Welcome aboard. Good to have you here. Even if you're killing it right now and you're busy, especially if you're busy, you got to get leverage. And, the ultimate leverage is definitely in agent attraction. Obviously it's a huge passive income source that can change your business, change your life, give you more freedom, give you your time back. But I find that a lot of people, when they get stuck when they're really, really busy with taking the time to identify what shit needs to get off of my plate. What do I need to stop doing so that they can do more of what makes them productive? And, a lot of times, one specific conversation, it was around a person that hits the phones really well, but is so busy, they haven't taken the time to ever, try to hire an ISA. And, while you may be great on the phones, hitting it 2 hours a day, and then you get so busy that, some days you do it, some days you don't. A full-time person, the investment in, $3,000 to $4,000 a month for, in labor dollar, the return on that investment of that labor dollar is, when they're making calls for 8 hours a day is going to be very difficult to recreate in any other way. And so, getting your time back so you can be face-to-face with more clients, is just, it's a stage that people get stuck in. And instead of making that change, they just try to juggle it. They get stuck there, and they're in that hustler stage doing, 40 to 80 to 100 transactions. And you cannot break through that without getting some leverage. And, I think people sometimes don't want to hire, don't want to manage people, or they made a bad hire once before, instead of, as you mentioned a moment ago, who do you have to become? You have to become better at hiring. You have to become better at leading people. You have to become better at creating management systems and processes and daily rhythm for your business. Like you're going to have to become someone that you're not. You can't skip that step. And, I think that's the challenge that a lot of people face, is that, whatever stage that you're at, that you're not moving forward. What is it that you need to learn? What is it you need to get off your plate? How do you need to create more leverage so that you can do more dollar productive activities? And if that means, I haven't had time to do any recruiting because, I've got this business I do, and I've got all this other stuff going on. What do you got to get off your plate? What do you got to do to change something? I mean, if you just, and it's not like you don't have to do anything, crazy with agent attraction, but I can tell you, and most everybody on here, no matter what your numbers are, how many people it is that you've attracted to the company, how many conversations a day, how many new conversations a day are you having? How many, what is your system for follow-up? Are you using coach's system, for follow-up? And if you're, I think most of us, if we were to put it all up on a spreadsheet and take a look at the numbers of, what we're doing daily towards agent attraction to get freedom, I think we would all have to say, yeah, we could probably be doing better. Right. Yeah. And so, but you have to get clear on that. You have to be like, what are all the things I can do? What's going to give me the most leverage? Well, if I'm making $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, $20,000 a month, that changes everything. And so, it all comes down to what you do daily. If you want to change something you're doing daily, and show me your calendar. And if you're not doing something daily with agent attraction, you're never going to get fully free. So yeah, that's
Amen. You're preaching. I love it. I've been on everybody's ass about the calendar lately. Is because it's getting back, and it's that whole only skipping steps presents the illusion of speed, and a lot of people have been skipping steps over the last few years. And everything that you just said right there, those are skills, and anything that's a skill can be developed. Right? 100%. I'm not good at hiring, but that's a skill set. You just haven't developed the skill set yet. And like a lot of folks listening into this right here, we've been hardwired to, when we have an issue, to how do we overcome this? How do we fix this? How do we do this? And it's the wrong question. And it's my number 2 book recommendation. And if you're struggling with this, then you need to go get Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. He breaks it all down. He breaks the science. He breaks why we're hardwired that way. And it's change your questions, change your life. How do I do this? That's not the best question. Who do we need to go get, seek out, leverage, hire, recruit, consult, mentor, coach with to help us solve this?
Right.
It's a better question, better life. And so that's the book. You guys, if you're struggling with that, everything that Jay just said, if you're struggling with that, you've got to get that book, Who Not How. And once you embrace that concept, your life will never be the same.
Right.
It'll never be the same. So we had a question earlier, how are we capitalizing on the shift in the market to attract more agents? Provide the skills. To me, and because you're going to love this. So got an agent, been working with her for a while. FSBOs are a real opportunity right now. So we're talking multiple strategies. I think kind of what Braden's doing is one strategy. I believe for sell by owners needs to be another strategy for you. She's following the NAEA FSBO script to the T.
Right.
To the T. Success.
Yeah.
She goes, she goes, I ain't trying to entrepreneur this. And she goes, I'm just following it. It's like, she goes, it's so smooth. I started laughing.
That's right.
It's good. It's good. It's proven. It works. It is that.
Dropping some bombs in here.
Gil, so Bobby Franchise and Gil Ramos, they have this little mantra right now. They're calling it the summer of skill. And I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are you capitalizing on the shift? You're just becoming more skilled, and then you're creating to where an environment to where you can train and help people become more skilled. You become it's CHEP 101, provide more value than in the current situation they're in, and then they're going to be attracted to you.
Right. And that is that, the strategy doesn't change. The process doesn't change as far as agent attraction in a market that's shifting. It's just helping people identify their problems. And the reason it's an opportunity is because more people are having more challenges and are more unclear on what they need to do to accomplish their goals. They're scared, so they're more open-minded to a conversation. And so it still comes down to the basics, blocking and tackling. How many people are you talking to a day? Are you trying to understand their problems and then connecting them with how we can help solve those problems through our model? And it's that simple. And then follow up.
Yeah, and let's I think that's a perfect little segue. Let's get into kind of what Coach is doing for the month of July for everybody. Kind of unpack that a little bit. I know you've had some conversations. We had the opportunity to have him come into Orlando, and he's Coach is gangster.
Say that again. I was
So just kind of unpack what Coach is doing for us in the month of July.
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, this was a really great idea. It was Al's idea to do this 4-week agent attraction training on his $1 million fanatical follow-up system. And he had a system. I mean, that's the most important thing is, do you have a system where you know what you're saying, you're identifying the people that are a fit that you want to follow up with and should follow up with, and then what are you saying to close them? And the reality is most people are really lost here. And going through this, going through the class, we had, I don't know how many, we had 200 people more or less at shareholders at his live session that we did. Where we kind of touched the surface of this, and we went a little bit deep, but just in that, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate the numbers, but I've had probably 4 or 5 people reach out to me. I had one person in the hallway set an appointment that day or that night, and set an appointment with somebody that they've been trying to get, and she was so excited. I don't even remember her name. But when you have an organization, and the way we think about it is, anybody that's a honey badger comes to this, if 200 people come to this, everybody leaves and recruits another person. Hey, we just recruited 200 people from that effort.
Yeah.
And so the beautiful thing is if you're trying to attract agents and you have anybody that you've already attracted and you get them involved and they all get excited, go back and do something that they wouldn't have done, that's how you grow your organization. And so this fanatical follow-up is really about what the hell are you saying? How are you identifying who is a good fit and who is, potentially a good fit? And then how are you following up with them? And what are you saying to get them over the edge and make them move? And so the first 2 weeks of the boot camp are around agent attraction. The last 2 weeks are about the same fanatical follow-up process for buyers and sellers, where you can invite anyone that's not in your organization for free to this training for free. And that gives you, again, another reason to follow up with them later about bringing them over to EXP. And so it's a beautiful thing, right? If you want to grow an organization, the secret isn't, this is where I think a lot of folks have to kind of change their paradigm. Their secret's not in what you have to do. It's in what you have to get everyone in your organization doing. And that's, to grow, you have to be plugged, you have to be plugged in. Hang on. Nick Krim's hit me up and I think he thinks we have a call at 12:30.
It's all right. No, I know where you're going with that too. And it has to duplicate. And so, I mean, that's like, Brian Carruthers building an empire 101 is that it has to duplicate. And there's a lot of great people that are making like life and generational wealth for themselves right now, but they're also doing some stuff that just doesn't scale, doesn't duplicate. And that's fine, good for them. But if you're like really want to build a massive organization, and this comes back down to the other part of clarity too, cuz that we didn't touch on, is like, what's that purpose? Like, yeah, what can get you here, but what's going to keep pushing you beyond? Like for this, I'm just going to use you for example. Like, you make more fucking money in a month than we ever combined made in multiple years. And yet your ass is right here on this call, pouring into people. I see your calendar. You're always talking to people. Like, once financial needs are met, there has to be a greater purpose to keep you going. What is that?
That's a tough one. I think you have to get fulfillment out of, it's the same reason Jay Abraham liked working with us. Yeah, it's fulfilling for me when someone comes up to me and it's like, man, I did exactly what you said and it worked, and I got the result I was after. You know what I mean? Like that to me is more fulfilling than the money. I like to see others win, and so that's where I'm at. In my journey. You know what I'm saying? But if you have that in you, and that makes and that's what makes if that makes you feel really good, then sending a text to 100 people like I did the other day, inviting them to the event, I owe it to them, right? Like, and here's the thing, like if they're not plugged in or they miss it and they don't see a post, and if I didn't send the text and then they didn't share that with their top 5 people in their group and their organization, that's on me. It's me letting them down. So you got to lead from the front and get people involved, and you got to genuinely care about trying to help them, and don't lose sight of, no matter how big your organization gets, you just can't lose sight of, what am I doing next that's going to help my group? What am I doing next that's going to make a difference? And so that's just, for me, that's how it comes down to.
I get a sinking feeling in my stomach when something's not relayed that I know would be beneficial to them. It's just like, it's
it's opportunity.
Yeah. We had one exit interview question when people would, keep in mind, I mean, especially in the Lawton office, the only time somebody left us is if they were moving out of the area. And right. I remember, being super intentional. I would always ask just one question. And the question was, and I remember this was with Carrie, when Carrie was kind of transitioning out of it. Just the ISA role wasn't for her, and she was transitioning just whatever was going on in her life. And I just remember her sitting there, and I forget who was in the office with me. Tracy might've been in there with me. And, she was kind of emotional because it was a tough decision for her. And I said, let me ask you one question. I'm only going to ask you one question. Is that okay if I ask you that? And she's like, yes, you can. And I said, are you a better human being today than when leaving today than when you first came on board with us? And she was like she even got more emotional. And she said, absolutely I am. And I said, That's all that means. That's the only thing that means to me, is that we had an impact on you in a positive way that made you a better human being. That's it. That's for me, right? It's the transformation that I get to see in people, because I know if they transform, their business and their life is going to transform.
Yep. And it comes down to, really, leading people. And we did such a damn good job of it. And what it really boiled down to was, there was a lot of pieces to it. And then I want to go back to Hillsman's question on, finding a production manager. Yes. in the process.
That's a great question.
It's kind of all goes together. We built systems around this. We had the training, all the documents, everything you need to identify the right hire. You have to create the roles and responsibilities. You have to know what skills that they would need to have. And you got to get real clear on all of that before you ever write an ad to hire someone. And that process I didn't really care for, but I know that making a bad hire or not knowing what hire to, not knowing who the best person for the job was, always came down to not being really clear on exactly what it was that they needed to be good at in order to be really good at that job. So you could write the correct ad, align the compensation, and find somebody that that becomes a huge asset. Where was I going with that? That was kind of answering. I'm really answering.
Kind of going back to Hillsman, right? Around clarity, and you got to know. You nailed the whole process. I was thinking through. Dan Sullivan has a tool called the impact filter, and it's when you go through and it forces you to answer the questions, right? What's the best outcome? Like, what are the success metrics? How are you going to measure success? What does this look like if it was perfect? So you got to do that work before you can even, because what happens, right? We tend to want to bring people in that are like us.
Yeah.
That shit doesn't work.
Nope. One of the best, I won't say the name, not that you would ever know, but we had an ISA that we hired at the brokerage really before we started doing partner. And we had a pretty good onboarding, we had a pretty good hiring process where they basically had to read a script, and we gave them the script, and they had to make a call and leave a recording with them using the script. And the ones that did that really well would make it to a group interview, and we ended up making this hire. She gets on board, cold on the phone. One of the best we've ever had on the phone. Cannot use technology to save her life. And we didn't have a filter in our hiring process to identify.
She was so good on the phone, though.
Really good. So good on the phone, it almost overcame the challenges with technology. But she just was so inefficient with technology that she really was. It was one of those, a B hire that it's hard, really, really hard to let go of, because they're good, but they're just not they're not the best hire. They're not that person that would have made a huge difference. That if you'd have made the right hire, you would never let go. And so, that comes out when you understand what are the roles, responsibilities, the success metrics, and what are the skills that they need to have. And if you're hiring an ISA, they need to be skilled with using technology. And when you're making calls and things are popping up on the screen, you got to be able to work through that, log your notes, move on to the next one, have a conversation, use the information in the CRM to connect and engage with people. And it's just one of those examples. If you don't really think about, like, on a daily basis, what does success look like? What are they doing on the daily? And really go through this process. There's a whole document we use to fill it out. Then you can write the ad, and then you can identify the character traits that they need to have. Are you looking for a D personality? Or are you looking for an S personality? Those things start to become very clear. And so, the hiring process is a lot easier once you've gone through that process, for sure, for any position, whatever it may be. And I think, as we're discussing this, was probably helping, Dan get a little bit more clear on, what are the things, what are the calls that you get that you don't want to take anymore? And what do those come from? And what problems could this person solve, in terms of helping those agents? And, do they need to be able to help them with writing their first contract? Do they need to have some kind of skills around that? And you write all that list out, and you go looking for the person that best fits that. And when you write an ad that's looking for that person that has all of these skills, that can do all these things, the person that matches that is like that's me. That they're looking for me. And so you get better candidates because you got more clear on the front end to write an ad. You don't want to, your goal is not to interview 1,000 people. Your goal is to interview people that are attracted to the position because it fits what they're good at and where their skills are. And because they're going to always perform better if they're doing things that they're good at. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why you've got to have that process in place, because it's also a deselection process, and you filter them through. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about that you and I always talk about is creating systems and processes, but also creating filters. That's why you're talking about it getting clear. You're creating a filter to make better decisions. Am I saying yes to things that's moving me closer to my freedom, or is it going to move me further away? Like, that's like, what if you guys take anything away from this conversation? Like, that is the most important filter that you have to have in your life. Is if me saying yes, hey, me going to shareholders in Orlando, is that going to move me closer to my freedom, or is that going to move me further away? Well, fuck, it's going to move me closer to my freedom. Then I'm going every damn time.
Right.
And it's like most people don't have decision-making filters in place. One thing I want you to cover on real quick. You said B player. Explain to everybody what a B player is.
Yeah. Yes. B players are the people you spend time with instead of your family. And whenever Mark Chesley, the CTO at Infusionsoft, we used to go to this mastermind. We paid $25,000 or so a year to be a part of it, and we had this mastermind was, I think it was either 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, I think it was 3. I think it was 3.
It which in all honesty, with every other event that we always go to, it was a lot to commit to that, and it was a small group of people we're meeting with.
5 to 6 businesses, I think, at any given time.
Yeah. And there was a lot of benefit to it. The biggest benefit was when you're presenting to the CEO and the upper echelon of $1 billion company, your biggest problem, you better damn sure get real clear on what your problem is, right? And so part of the preparation for going to this mastermind was it was a lot of the value, a lot of it. Not all of it, but it was a lot of it. And every time we would be about time to really commit to go, we'd be like, man, do we really have time to do that? We've got all this we're doing that. We're going, all these things going on. Like, we're like, we're going. And then we would go, and then we would get there. And by the end of the first day, we'd be like, this was the best damn decision we've ever made. And it helped us get so much more clear. We got so much great feedback. And then the next time we'd be like, man, can we sure we can go? All right, wait, we're going. It's always, every time it's always the best one we've ever been to. All right, we're going again. And so that commitment of getting clear on your problem, getting in the room with the right people, getting feedback and getting clarity. And then most importantly, taking massive action on your, what you learned. And then, you're going to move to that next problem. And, that's, the decision-making filter really, it boils down to the whole coaching framework, John, that you use and that we've used and that every mentor that we've had used and that Traction rewrote, but it's all the same framework. And it's just having a process for how you make decisions in your business and then evaluating what the hell happened, every 90 days. And then learning from that. And I think the benefit that we had is not only getting to see it with every one of our coaching clients, go through that process of making better decisions and having significant growth, but, we did it for 3 businesses every quarter, right? We did it for, the team we had in Oklahoma. We did it for the brokerage in Dallas, and we did it for NAEA. Mm-hmm. So we went through that process of iterating over and over again. And the bigger, more successful company was NAEA at the time. And we saw the gains and we saw the mistakes that we were making. We were able to look back and say, we wanted to do this, and this. Why didn't we get all of these things done? We got priority number 4 got done completely. Number 1 got halfway done. Number 2 didn't get done at all. Number 3, and you start to look around and go and say, well, what were our assumptions? When we set this, we felt like we could do all these things. Why are we still here and not there? And you start to get better. Things got in the way. Jay added some new idea on the plate halfway through the quarter that wasn't one of the priorities, and it took somebody's time away. And everybody gets to see, reflect on, we were all trying to get there. Now you celebrate the victories first because people will get their feelings hurt in that meeting if you don't. But for me, it was always my favorite part was just the learning. Like, how do we get that wrong? Because we really thought we had done all the work and we got clear, made decisions, commitments. You got, you're at the size that we were at within a year, we had, 50 employees, and, we have days that we're taking, having them get prepared and submit what they think the biggest priorities for the company were from their perspective. And there are all these meetings, and then you take the entire executive team, which was a lot of people getting paid a lot of money, and you take all of them out for 3 days for this whole process. You're spending a lot of money and time doing that, but you have to pull yourself out of the business. You have to pull your key players out of the business and run day to day to get clear on what problems need to get solved, what are all the opportunities. And that, that rhythm is, you just get better at it. You're going to screw it up the first time for sure, if not the first 10 times. But when you start getting better at evaluating who's doing what resources you have, and which ones you don't have, what things that you suck at doing that you really don't have a solution for. And for most agents, like with technology, that's the one we always would see is, you say you have a goal of implementing something or your goal was to implement Infusionsoft, for instance. Well, Infusionsoft does a lot of things. What do you mean by implement Infusionsoft? Yes. Number one is, what process is it are you trying to fix that, that you're going to utilize Infusionsoft for? Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to move my whole database over from this to that. And it being you get to the end of the quarter and that's the only thing you got done or partially done. It's because you didn't have a good person that had a really good skill set of helping you do that, or you didn't really get really clear on exactly what the end result was you're looking for. So you got, you realize, man, we need to make a hire that has these skill sets. Otherwise, it becomes stuck, halfway through the quarter when you don't know what, you're not capable, or you don't have the right skill set to solve a problem. And so, those are, it's a rhythm, man. I mean, you get, when you start making better decisions, I mean, the beautiful thing about this business is, and I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, and I think I was talking to Chris, actually. It was yesterday, and he's a hedge fund manager and friend of ours here in Puerto Rico. Really, really, really smart guy, and we're talking about real estate agents, and when you make $10 or $15,000 in a transaction. And it's a service business, so you don't have you don't have to buy a car, put it on a car lot, and then and then pay for that car lot, and then sell that car at a profit, and then make enough money to pay all the bills, and then have a profit afterwards. That's a different level of that's a much more difficult thing to do than sell a house and make $15,000, and maybe you spend $200 in ad spend. That's So what agents do is they try this, they try that, they just keep doing things. And, if you really truly want to be successful, you got to stop being so, reactive to ideas and start to get clear on what you're trying to build and create that decision process. So, what you're committing to, and you're building oil wells in your business that are going to continue to pump oil and not, stop whenever you go to this next new thing. And you're trying to build a new oil over here, and this one stopped pumping because you didn't properly put it in place to be sustainable.
It's being more intentional. And, one of my favorite, it's no run. Every run is hard. You just get faster. Right. And so it's like every day is a challenge. You just get faster. You just get better, but you keep pushing. And this is what I always tell everybody is that the more successful you become in your market, more mind share, more market share you have, more opportunity is going to come your way. It's just going to attract to you like a magnet. And if you don't have a filter to make decisions, then you're going to say yes to things that are going to slow you down, or you're going to get into relationships with other companies that don't align to your vision and what you're wanting to accomplish. And I mean, it is one of the most critical things that if you're looking to like, man, what's my skill set, man, learn how to make better decisions. I mean, that's, we all have a framework. You got to have one. And the best one that I can tell you guys is it's super simple. Is this going to move me closer to where I want to be, or is it going to move me further away? And so it goes back to our whole beginning of this conversation, is that you better get clear on where you want to be. Because if not, then you're just going to get in this vicious cycle. It's just this circular world. It's going to be Groundhog Year for you, Groundhog Decade for you, instead of, being intentional, moving in a known direction. Because I want to wrap. I want to leave kind of with this as we're at the halfway point of the year. Ryan Holiday's, one of my favorite authors. He was on Rogan last week. So I don't know if you've caught that episode.
Not yet.
If you guys listening in, if you love Ryan Holiday, it's absolutely 3 hours of just Ryan Holiday. And so stoicism. I didn't realize how young he is. He's only 35.
Yeah, he's a young cat.
Young cat. Man, 26 or 27 when The Obstacle is the Way came out.
Right.
And his 10th book was the only book that finally hit the #1 Times bestsellers list.
That's crazy.
And that was Stillness is the Key. And he's written, 12. He's got another book about to come out. Anyways, if you guys haven't gone through his stuff, I cannot recommend it enough. Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, Stillness is the Key, Perennial Seller. Like there's so many just great books. And they were sharing a story, and it was, I think, with President Carter. And it was like when Carter was maybe still in his late 50s, and somebody was doing an interview, kind of interviewing him for something. Might have been kind of testing him as he, where's he going to be coming in. Obviously wasn't the best president, but the story is super is super powerful. And I think it's Carter going through telling his story, and ended up being wherever he graduated, one of the academies he graduated from. There was like 900 that had graduated, and he finished, in the top 60. He was like 58 or 59, and he was feeling proud about it. And he was this gentleman, he thought this gentleman that was kind of interviewing him was going to give him some props. And the gentleman instead asked him and said, "Did you do your best?" Mm-hmm. And he kind of reflected for a second. He thought through, and he was like, I missed a couple classes. I skipped out on a couple classes. I didn't study hard over here. I coasted through this, there. And he's like, I'm going to be honest. And he goes, "No, I didn't. And then the gentleman goes, "Why not?" And he got up and walked out of the room. And so the whole lesson there is, it doesn't matter if you finished 59, 179, 804. Did you do your best? And that's kind of reflecting on that and kind of challenging everybody. Here we are at the halfway point of the year. You're at where you're at. But the question I think you need to ask yourself is, did you do your best to get to this point? And if you're honest, like we all are, I'm going to say probably not.
Yep. Love that.
Yeah. It's powerful. Check it out. Guys, I appreciate you, man. This is one of my favorite hours of the week. Get to hang out with you, and appreciate all of you guys jumping in.
Appreciate all the comments, and appreciate you guys tuning in and asking questions. And we'll see you guys soon.
Yep. Get signed up for Coach Burt. It is the July $1 million follow-up. It's 4 hours of Coach Burt for $97. It is a ridiculous steal.
Yeah.
Like
yep.
Stealing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Do it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. See you guys.